What is up, Maniacs? I am Zach, and I am the Milly Maker Maniac. Welcome to our Week 12 game-by-game DFS breakdown, where we go through my spreadsheet that I make each week to find matchup advantages. We check out pricing and start to get a feel for who our core plays on the week are going to be. And then obviously, we got a lot of work left until we get to Sunday, so we'll be doing a lot of research throughout the week, digging into injuries and matchup specifics beyond what we have here in the spreadsheet and start to narrow down our player pool from there. So we will go game by game here and start talking about who we like and who we don't like as the week progresses. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and can comment. Let me know in the comments who this week's slate breaker is. Last week in our comments, Ty Wilds told us to play Sean Tucker. All we had to do was listen. It was right there in the comments, but we didn't. But yeah, tell me your slate breaker in the comments, and hopefully this week I take advantage of your guys' insight and play the right guys. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Our first game on the docket are the New York Jets versus the Baltimore Ravens. Not really interested in the Jets. Maybe Breece Hall. It sounds like they're going to play Tyrod Taylor, but they got a slight advantage in the run game. But Baltimore's run defense has been better in recent weeks as they've got healthier. So what this is based on is a cumulative grade for the season through PFF. And Baltimore's defense has been better. So I don't really think that's an advantage. I don't really see the Jets scoring many points. Their team total is only 14.5. So I'm not going to touch any of the Jets. Breece Hall would definitely be a contrarian play if you're into that, but I'm not going to mess with in their pass catchers, except we'll see what Adonai Mitchell's price is. You could see some upside there, so we'll look at that. On the Baltimore side, slight advantage for the quarterback. I thought this advantage would be a lot better, actually, across the board. Definitely interested in Lamar. Thought I was going to be really interested in Derrick Henry, but these grades actually show a pretty neutral matchup. We'll again, like the Jets don't have Quentin Williams anymore, so that definitely impacts the run game, and this is a cumulative score. And the Jets have given up plenty of big games to running back, so I'm not afraid of this. I'm still interested in Henry, but I thought it was going to be a much bigger matchup advantage than what the grades are showing here. Let's go ahead and look at pricing real quick in this game for the Jets. Taylor's playing. I'm not going there, though. I just don't see any upside with the way he plays. Hall at 6,100, it's just too expensive. If he was in the low fives, I would consider him. But at 6,100, I'm going to be a full fade on Hall. I don't mind Mitchell or Mechie, really, at 32 and 3,300 as potential punt plays. Mechie had 3 for 45 and a touchdown last week. Mitchell could have had a big game, but dropped a few and just missed on a few from Fields. But yeah, I'm not interested in anything here. Let's go to the Baltimore side quick. This side, we definitely have more interest. Lamar at 6,700, definitely in range. Coming off a really bad game. Better matchup here. Derrick Henry at 7,600, we're definitely interested in that as well. Zay's a little more than what I would like, but still definitely in play. We'll see if Bateman plays. Hop let us down last week. 1 catch for 4 yards. Tough. Or sorry, 1 catch for 11 yards on 4 targets. Thought that was going to be a bigger number, but it was not last week. And then at tight end, Mark Andrews has been solid. Still only at 3,800. Very touchdown dependent, but last 3 games he's got touchdowns, so that pays off there. Probably won't be too interested in him. Likely he's been getting decent amount of targets each week, but hasn't done anything with it yet. But there's a chance he has a big game at some point. Definitely like the Ravens D, but at 3,900, it will be hard to get there. All right, let's move on to Pittsburgh and Chicago. Showing a slight matchup advantage for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the passing game. We'll see if Rodgers plays. It sounds like he broke his arm, but might be able to play with a cast on his left hand or left arm. Doesn't sound like he's going to need surgery, so he might play. We'll see what plays out there. Let's look at Rudolph's price, but probably not too much interest there. Chicago's secondary is pretty bad, though. We targeted him big time last week, but J.J. McCarthy let us down there, but there were plenty of wide open receivers. It's just a matter of McCarthy not hitting them. So we could have some interest here, but the way that the Steelers play offense, it's hard to see much ceiling coming from Rodgers or Rudolph, but we'll look at pricing. And then in the run game, if Warren's out and it's just Gain, we could have some interest in Gain depending on what his price is. Chicago side, it actually looks like a pretty negative matchup for Caleb Williams, a decent one for the run game. I'm not going to play much of this game. I think this is probably going to be a pretty low-scoring game, which is what the Vegas odds are telling us. The line's low end was 44.5 and 45.5 on the high end, and the implied total is 21.5 for Pittsburgh, 23.5 for Chicago. So it's not looking like a spot where a lot of fantasy points are going to be scored, so I probably won't have much of this game. All right, Steelers, Rodgers at 5,200, Rudolph 47. I just think we'll look at other quarterbacks in that area that I like a lot better, so probably won't be on this one much. We'll keep an eye on Warren, 6,600. That's a little tough to get to. Game, I was hoping he'd be cheaper than that, 5,500. Not as intriguing to me. But he would get a lot of volume, so we would have some interest, but it's not like a smash spot for me by any means. DK, 5,300 might be an okay number for him this week. He had one boom game, I guess, in week 4, but haven't really seen him take the top off the defense yet. Not really interested in anybody else's punt plays. And tight end is so hard to hit. We tried on Freiermuth last week, but we failed. Let's go with Chicago side. Caleb at 5,700. I mean, he's obviously put up some big weeks, but I think this is going to be more the one where they try to win with defense in the run game and try to keep it low scoring, especially if Rudolph plays. So I think this is probably going to be an ugly game. I don't see a lot of scenarios where Williams has to go into comeback mode. It's possible, but yeah, that big upside, I don't know that we'll see it this week. Swift and Monungai with the split backfield, it's hard to see either one of them getting 25 right now. I would lean. Honestly, I'd start to lean Monungai. We'll dig more into this matchup as far as the specifics on what each team's runs and what each running back is good at compared to what the defense is good at. So we'll look at that more this week. But Monungai seems to have more touchdown equity since they've been splitting. It's 14.8 and 9 for DeAndre Swift and 8.8 and 10 for Monungai. I don't know. Probably not too much interest in either guy, but we'll do a little bit more digging on it. Oops. Rome at 6,100. We could mix him in a little bit. Probably out on more inverted unless I'm doing a Caleb stack, but I don't know that I'm really going to do that much this week. There's just so many. There's a few QB spots that are just so good that I'm probably not going to spread it out too much at QB this week. Same thing at running back too. It'll probably be pretty concentrated there. Yeah, nothing too exciting here. Bears D at 3,300, that we can mix them in for sure. What was Pittsburgh's D at 2,800? Yeah, we can mix in Pittsburgh's D as well. Let's jump over to our next game. This one's a lot more fun. This is New England and Cincinnati. Cincinnati's showing a big disadvantage across the board, which is interesting on offense, but we know that their defense is horrible. So this is one of the biggest advantages I've ever seen for a passing game and for a running game. This is the biggest overall score I've had this year at 18 for the team, and that's even crazier because they're on the road. So I give 2 points for being the home team. So having the highest score and not being the home team is pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, it looks like a great spot for Drake May and pass catchers. We'll have to see if Booty's going to play and start to decipher who we want to stack Drake May with. That really could be what it comes down to this week. If he's QB1, is did we pick the right stacking partner? So we'd have to spread that out pretty evenly because there's nobody that's, yeah, this is for sure the guy. It looks like Ramondre is going to be back this week, so we'll have to look at, obviously, the running backs against Cincinnati is very intriguing, but does that split take away the upside for both of them? I think probably not. I think we could actually mix in both running backs across our player pool, but we'll look at pricing here in a second. And the other thing is, too, like we show a big disadvantage for Cincinnati here across the board, but we know that offense can get going. They will be without Jamar Chase this week because of the suspension. So they, obviously, that takes away a big factor for them, but T. Higgins is very capable, and you can always count on Joe Flacco to sling it. So there is the potential for this game to be back and forth with that Cincinnati offense, despite this showing a pretty negative game environment for the Cincinnati offense. Let's look at pricing. Drake May, I believe, is our highest priced quarterback this week. Yeah, at 6,900, but he's not overpriced. We'll definitely still be playing plenty of Drake May. And then at running back, Henderson at 6,700 is reasonable. Stevenson, I'll want to mix in some too. He's been out for a few weeks. I don't know that they completely go away from him, though. They seem to like him. We'll see how that plays out. I would be surprised if Stevenson plays and he doesn't get at least 10 carries, and 10 carries against the Bengals sounds like at least one touchdown to me. So we want to be interested there for sure. At wide receiver, Diggs at 6,500, probably appropriately priced. If Boudet plays at 5,000, we're definitely interested in that. If he doesn't, we definitely like Hollins. We can mix in a little Douglas, and I would mix in a little Williams as well. Yeah, it would be pretty even across the board here on who I go to. I think Hollins and Williams are actually the ones that have like the chance for the real big boom game. Diggs is probably going to have 7 to 8 catches, probably around 100 yards, but less likely to get in the end zone. Yeah, like what he did last week seems like could be repeated this week. It's just if he gets in the end zone, it's a huge week for us. So we definitely want to mix him in, no doubt about that. And at tight ends, Henry, 3,900, we definitely like a lot. He hasn't had a boom game yet this year, but he's getting consistent targets each week. And it's the Bengals. The Bengals are really good at giving up points to the tight end, so we want to mix that in. I will have a New England player in every single lineup. I'll definitely make that rule, especially because there's so many guys that are cheap here that have the potential of 25 points. I think it's pretty evenly likely for all these guys to do it, whether Boudy plays, but Boudy, Hollins, Williams, Douglas, I say a little less, but it could happen, and Henry. So all those guys we definitely want to be mixing in as well, because I think that there's potential for 25 plus from those low price guys. On the Cincy side, we know Chase is out. Higgins is priced as a wide receiver 1, so we're not getting much of a discount there. Yosef at 4,100, maybe. See if Tinsley's had some moments and looked good in the preseason. He could be somewhat interesting, but yeah. Chase Brown at 6,200. It's tough for New England. Has a really good run defense. Flacco's at 5,500. I'm probably going to be pretty low on the Bengals this week. There's just nothing that jumps out to me as like a good value. It looks like a tough spot for them. I think that New England might just roll, which could cap May's upside. It's definitely something we need to consider in that. That could be the thing that prevents those guys from hitting their ceiling, but somebody's hitting their ceiling out of that off on this New England team. I don't know that's going to be the case on the Cincinnati side. All right, let's move on to our next game. We got the New York Giants taking on the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions have a real nice advantage here. Solid in the passing game. Looks like they got a little bit of disadvantage in the pass block versus pass rush, which isn't great for Goff. We like to see him be able to have some time, but he's handled the pressure okay this year, but big advantage in the secondary. And this Giants pass rush is pretty solid, so they tend to grade pretty well in the pass rush, but their defense overall, as we can see here, like they have a big advantage on the pass rush versus pass block there, but overall they are a negative 24.2, which I think is the third biggest gap disadvantage of the week. So we definitely want to keep an eye on that and be aware of that. Yes, they have a pass rush, but their defense as a whole is really bad, and a big part of that is they have a horrible run defense. This is one of the biggest advantages I've ever seen for running backs. Difficult part with Detroit is we know that it's going to be split with Gibbs and Montgomery, but they can both hit ceilings in the same game. So we will be spreading. We'll have some Goff lineups. It's easier to stack with Laporta out right now. You can just stack it with Amon-Ra, or you can stack it with J-Mo, and you can mix in Gibbs and Montgomery into that as well. So there's 5 guys that we want to mix in. We'll mix them in pretty evenly. Let's go look at pricing. The Giants, we'll start on the Giants side. They do have Jameson Winston going this week. I like this matchup for him a lot better than what he had last week against Green Bay. But if Slayton's not there, it takes away some options there. He played pretty well in that game. There were some balls that his receivers should have caught that they didn't. He made some big throws under pressure, moved pretty well in the pocket too. Yeah, I mean, he can definitely push this Detroit team, and I think the Giants are probably going to be aggressive early in this game. But and I think I'm pretty confident Dart's out. We'll keep an eye on that. But he is in line to practice, so we might have interest in Dart. Less so at 5,600 though. Winston at 4,600 was somewhat intriguing, but Dart's had that spark. We'll see. We'll consider that based on injury. We'll talk more about it in the player pool video when we have more information. But Slayton dealing with that hamstring injury, I don't know if we'll see him or not. That would just leave Wandale, and there really isn't any other pieces. Theo Johnson maybe, but he's been priced up too. So I don't really see anything on the Giants side that jumps out to me as like a great play by any means. On the Detroit side, Goff's pretty affordable at 6K. We'll definitely want to build some Goff lineups. Gibbs at 8,300, fair value. Montgomery 5,300, fair value. Not great deals, but makes sense for the spot. I would say that the receivers are a little underpriced. Amon-Ra St. Brown should probably be closer to 8,500, and Jameson Williams has definitely been trending in the right direction. So I think he should be in the 6K range. So both these guys are good values. We'll definitely want to have a good chunk of them across our player pool. St. Brown at his price, primarily only with Goff, but we might mix him in a little bit outside of Goff. Brock Wright at 3K, we can mix him in. What did he do last week? He did have 7 targets last week. Didn't really do anything with it, but was involved. So we can definitely mix that in at 3K as well. So defense at 3,700. Probably be hard to get to, but definitely a solid play. Let's move on to our next game, which is Minnesota and Green Bay. My rule right now is I will not be playing any Vikings until J.J. McCarthy is not their quarterback. So what that means for you is you should play all the Vikings, because this week J.J. McCarthy will luck box his way to a huge game because I'm taking a stand on not playing him at all. So just know that. But everything here shows that they should not be playing Minnesota's offense. J.J. McCarthy has been horrific. But what I found interesting here is on the Green Bay side, the big advantage is in the passing game, a massive advantage for the passing game. This might be a Jordan Love week, especially with Josh Jacobs likely out. If Jacobs plays, that changed a little bit. But their run offense has been really bad besides Jacobs. Like, he's created a lot out of nothing. Their offensive line has been rough. I don't really expect Emmanuel Wilson to step in there and just be super successful. We might mix him in a little bit because he got 94%. He was on the field for 94% of snaps after Jacobs' injury and had 100% of the carries. So he's getting all the volume. We definitely can't ignore that. But this Green Bay passing game is intriguing to me. Probably Dobbs and Watson we will be interested in. Let's go look at pricing. So Minnesota, we'll look at it quickly, but not interested. J.J. McCarthy, if he was minus 2,000, I would not play him this week. Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, I don't really love it. Great prices for Jefferson Addison, but off a quarterback, so it's hard to see the real upside hitting. They're so dynamic, it's hard to fade these guys completely, so I might mix them in a little bit, but with McCarthy, it's just so hard to see them hitting their true ceiling. Like, they both could have had 40-point games last week when McCarthy just played so horrifically. Hawk at 3,300, not interested. Yeah, pretty much out on the Vikings. Packers side, Jordan Love, 5,800, definitely fair value. Wilson, 5,300, will definitely be mixing him in as a value play. I don't know that he's got a huge ceiling, but it could happen. Oh, yeah, Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson at 4,600. That's really nice. Yeah, like both these guys will be core plays for sure. Reed just got to be getting closer to coming back. We'll keep an eye on that. And Golden, we can mix him into some stacks for sure, but he wouldn't be a core play. Dobbs and Watson would be the core plays. And we could sprinkle in Musgrave as well. How many targets did he have last week? Just 2. So Definitely not Tucker Kraft. Their team is a very different team without Tucker Kraft. What's their defense at? 3,600. Of the expensive Ds we've seen so far, that one's the most intriguing to me. Just I see McCarthy turning the ball over a couple times. All right, let's jump over to our next game. This is a fun game. Indianapolis and Kansas City. We got a slight advantage for the Indianapolis passing game, and then a pretty big advantage in the run game. Obviously, with Jonathan Taylor, they're going to grade pretty well. Jonathan Taylor probably won't be a play for us this week. Actually, he won't be a play for us this week as he's at 10K. It just can't build a lineup to win a Milly Maker. He has to score, he literally has to score 50 points for that salary to pay off. It just makes it so hard to build a balanced lineup, a lineup that can win a Milly Maker at that price point. So we will probably be passing on Taylor, but I think for this game, it likely means it could be a shootout. Like, this looks like the best spot to be a back and forth shootout affair. To me, we have a solid pass game advantage for the Chiefs and a solid run game advantage for them as well. So it just looks like they should be able to score points, and Indianapolis is a good team as well, so you expect them to score points as well. So I expect this to be a back and forth game. Definitely have interest in both sides here. Hold on, we got a guest appearance. I got a new kitten. Come here, little one. This is Trisket. He's playing in the curtains right now that he's not supposed to be playing in. Are you being bad? Being bad? Are you going to be a lucky kitty for us this week and help us win a Milly? Yeah. All right. Let's keep moving. So we'll look at Indianapolis here. Jones at 6,200. Definitely a solid value, solid price there. Like I said, Taylor at 10K. Can't do it. It's too much. But Pittman and Pierce and Downs, these are all really good values. We'll mix all of them in. I like Warren at 5,500 as well. So I like the pass catchers in this game. They'll be sprinkled across my player pool for sure. On the Kansas City side, Mahomes at 6,800, obviously higher price point, but I think it's fair, honestly. Hasn't played well in the last couple of weeks, but before that had a good run. I expect them to get back to that this week in this matchup. We got Hunt at 5,100. We'll see if Pacheco, he might be back this week. We'll keep an eye on that. If Pacheco doesn't play, I would have interest in Hunt at 5,100. Rice and Worthy, I think, are good values. Worthy burned us a little bit last week, but yeah, his big game's coming. And Mahomes just missed on a big touchdown to him as well. So yeah, I like these prices. What Hollywood do last week for yeah, that's pretty solid. All those guys are solid plays. Kelsey at 5K, he looked really good last week. 13 targets. Yeah, as they get into must-win territory, it feels like Mahomes wants to go back to Kelsey in big moments. So got to keep an eye on that. I think it's probably pretty fair value. So this game, I like players from both sides. I'll be game stacking this game a lot. To me, this feels like it has the potential to be one of those huge shootout games. It could also be a dud too. It could be slower pace, both teams trying to run the football. But if it gets going, I could see it being back and forth. Really, if Daniel Jones plays really well, it comes down to the quarterbacks. If the quarterbacks play well, that game could really go off. So keep an eye on that one for sure. Next game, we got Tennessee against Seattle. Massive advantage for Seattle in the passing game and decent in the run game as well. Looks like a really good spot for Darnold to bounce back, and I very much believe that is exactly what he'll do. So I am very interested in Darnold this week. Tennessee, we don't need to spend any time on. We're not playing anybody from Tennessee except maybe some punt receivers. We'll look at it. But on the Seattle side, actually, let's quickly just do the Tennessee side, get it out of the way. Cam Ward, no thanks. Not against this defense. Pollard Spears, no thanks. Not against this defense. Yeah, those guys are two. If they were min price, maybe, but we're not going there. We're interested in Seattle's defense, maybe. That's about it. Yeah, at 4K, though, it's pretty hard to get to. All right, let's go to... the Seattle side. Darnold, 5,400, great value. He'll be one of our highest owned, if not our highest owned quarterback and running back. Walker and Charbonnet, maybe. It seemed like they're leaning on Walker more last week. Wonder if they do that more as they head towards the playoffs. But it looks like they're probably going to keep that split pretty solid. JSN at 9K with Darnold all day. We'll definitely be building him at 9K. It's hard to build him in outside of Darnold stacks. If he has that 40-point game that you have to have, then he's bringing Darnold along with him. So far, his ceiling's been 33, but this looks like a matchup where it could be that his new ceiling for sure. Shaheed hasn't done much yet in a Seattle jersey, but this could be the week. Cup, I'm not really interested in a fantasy this year. He's a solid NFL player still, but he's just not getting the volume or running the type of routes that we need for him to have a big fantasy day. Barner and Arroyo would definitely add into stacks. Wow, he had 11 targets last week. That's crazy. Coming off a 0 spot. Interesting. Arroyo had 2. So, yeah, Barner we can definitely mix in. Arroyo we might mix in to a couple in a Milly Maker in our Darnold lineups. But primarily Darnold and JSN is the big core focus there, and then we can mix in the other pieces around it. All right, 4 more games to go. We'll jump over to Jacksonville and Arizona next. This looks like could be a sneaky game as well. 2 positive numbers for each team. Looks like a decent advantage for the pass game to somewhat neutral, but for Jacksonville and pretty neutral as well for Arizona. But the nice thing about both these teams is it's pretty easy to stack them. Pretty good run advantage for Jacksonville. If Tutin's out, then we definitely are going to be interested in ETN. In Arizona, we're not interested in their run game. So it's basically Brissett and the pass catchers that led everybody to the promised land last week. On the Arizona side and Jacksonville, we'd primarily be interested in ETN, but let's look at pricing on both sides. Trevor Lawrence, 5,100. This could be a week that we'll play him at 5,100. ETN is a really good value at 5,900 if Tutin does not play. Be interested in both Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers. Let's see what Parker did last week. Just 2 catches. Interesting. Thought he would have more volume than that. Jacoby Myers, though, 5 for 6 for 64. Yeah, we like that. We can mix in both these guys. I like this range so far, receiver around 5K. Looks like there's a few guys in that range that we'll want to hit on. I don't think Strange will be back, but if he is, we would definitely have interest there. And Thomas, if he plays, we might have some interest, but not much. On the Arizona side, Marv's going to be out again this week is what I am hearing. Brissett's still at 5,300, though. We would definitely go back there. DeMarcado broke our hearts last week. We miss you, man. Thanks for ruining everything. But Bam Knight at 4,900, we could definitely mix that in at that price. It's somewhat intriguing. And then Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch definitely priced up 1,000 each from last week, but still very usable this week with Harrison out. And McBride at 6,800. He's obviously the highest price tight end, but if we went over to wide receiver, I think he's the 10th highest wide receiver, and he needs to be in this range up here with the CD Lambs and such. So I think he's a good value still overall, even at 6,800. Let's see who their defenses are priced. Yeah, probably out on both defenses. Next game, we have Vegas versus Cleveland. Vegas has just been really bad across the board. This looks like a smash spot for the Cleveland defense, and they're only at 2,900 too. So I actually will just go 100% Cleveland D this week with this massive advantage against Geno Smith and the Raiders and Chip Kelly, who seems to have no clue. Now on the Cleveland side, big disadvantage in the pass rush, but everywhere else is pretty solid. And they're going to play, looks like they're going to start Shador this week. I have interest, actually. Watching that game, did not think that Shador played that poorly. His offensive line definitely let him down big time. And on his pick, he probably should have taken the underneath route. But he trusted Judy to cut in front of the DB, and he just didn't do it. Judy ran a poor route there. So I think that a pick is a lot more on Judy than it is on Shedeur. It was probably a more aggressive play than what they needed in the moment, but I think if Judy ran the route appropriately, it could have been a catch to convert the third and long. So people are overreacting to that, and he made some good throws down the stretch there. The thing is, the problem what he had in that game is still a problem today or this week, which is that the pieces around him failed him. Fannin, I would be interested in. Judy, maybe. We'll look at the pricing. But I could see Shedeur having a solid day. We'll look at that. On the Vegas side, let's just quickly do that. I'm not playing Geno. Well, shit. Of course, 500. No, not against Cleveland. Not playing Genty. Yeah, we're not touching the Raiders. Even Bowers. Yeah, no way at 6K. We're not touching that. No Raiders this week. On the Cleveland side, love Fannin at 3,600. That's very intriguing. Shedeur, 4,200. Yeah, I'm going to be playing a good chunk of Brown stacks, which is gross. Judkins at 6K. Really like that. He might be the piece. Like, there's a whole bunch of hype around Sanders, but Judkins might be the piece that's the most intriguing out of this, actually. Tillman and Judy are definitely in play. Yeah, those are solid values. Fannin's my favorite, though, out of this. So we will be building some Shedeur stacks, and Fannin will be a core play for us this week, no doubt. And then defense, 2,900. We will be 100% Browns this week at defense. 2 more games to go. This next one's a fun one with Dallas and Philadelphia. A decent advantage in the passing game beyond the pass blocking for Dallas, but that's been the case week in and week out. This Philly defense is obviously very good, but we know that this Dallas passing game is really solid. There's a disadvantage in the run game, so that is going to impact them and should prevent them from playing complementary football. But I like Dallas when they open it up, so you can see big games from Pickens, Lamb, and maybe even Ferguson. On the Philly side, it looks like their pass game should have a huge day as well as their run game. So we will be all over the core plays on Philly. Let's look at Dallas first. Prescott, 6,400. That's fair value. Javonte at 6,500 will probably fade that. Yeah, I mean, he would need 2 touchdowns, and I don't think he's going to get the yardage that even if he gets 2 touchdowns that he becomes a play you need at 6,500. But these guys, Lamb and Pickens, so I'd be more interested in Pickens actually than Lamb just because of price point, because I think it's pretty even likelihood that they go off. But yeah, both of these guys are capable of scoring 40-point games. Yeah, we had 32 last week, but he's had 32, 34, 36 as boom weeks, and then floor around 15. So we like that. CeeDee Lamb hasn't had a boom game yet, but it's coming. It's coming for sure, and it could be this week. And there's also a little bit of a narrative of Lamb wanting to get some revenge of week 1 where he dropped 3 big passes that could have given Dallas a win against Philly. I bet he wants to come out and have a big game in Dallas as well. So that is, but it's saying it's going to rain, which is interesting because they're in a dome, but it is in Dallas. Let me double check that and make sure. Yeah, they're in Dallas. So yeah, I think these guys are priced well. I'll definitely mix in Pickens across my whole player pool with or without Prescott. Lamb will primarily be with Prescott. Ferguson at 5,300. It's fair value. He hasn't done a ton since Lamb has been back, but he's definitely capable of having a big game, so we'll mix him in. And then on the Philly side, really we just got to look at 4 guys. Hurts, that's way too cheap. We'll be playing a ton of Hurts. Saquon, we'll be playing a ton of Saquon. He hasn't had a big game this year, but at 7,500, like, he has a really good chance of having a 35-point game against Dallas, so we will definitely go there. And these receivers are really underpriced. They'll be very popular. All 4 of these guys will be very popular. I would lean Devonta Smith in this matchup, but I will have plenty of both guys and look forward to stacking them as well. And Dallas Goedert at 4,200 is intriguing as well. So really like this game as a potential shootout. And really, I prefer the Philadelphia side even more than the Dallas side. All right, one more game to go. Atlanta and New Orleans. This is Kirk Cousins versus Tyler Shuck. I shouldn't have to explain much more than that. Look, we're probably out on this, except maybe Bijan. No advantage for either offense, really. Let's look at Atlanta side. Cousins, 4,400. No, thank you. Especially with London out. Bijan, 8,500. We can mix them in. Algier actually might be the one that's more intriguing at his price, but probably just out on this game. I don't think either offense moves the ball very well. Mooney, maybe. But I don't know. I don't really like anything here. I think they're going to struggle to move the ball. 3,400. All right, let's look at New Orleans. Saints D. Saints D is intriguing at 2,500. Shuck at 4,400. Kamara and Neal. Probably not. Olave. Olave is 6,400. We can play Olave. Maybe Taysom Hill at 2,700. But out of this game, primarily just going to be Olave and the Saints D. All right, let's build a lineup. We've got through every game. Who do we want at quarterback? Actually, let's start at running back. The guys I really like this week, we definitely like Gibbs. Henry we like, but we don't love. Let's go expensive at running back here. The guys that I feel the most confident in, Gibbs has a split. You could lose touchdowns to Montgomery, but I could see him just scoring a couple long touchdowns and Montgomery getting some late. So we'll go Gibbs. We'll go Barkley. I was considering going Henderson, but with Ramondre Stevenson being back, I think it just limits his upside a little bit. We'll definitely be mixing in a good chunk of him, but we'll go stud running backs to start. Gibbs and Barkley. And then, so we're going to have to figure out our quarterback. So I was intrigued in going Darnold, but to go with JSN, I don't know if we can do that with this running back combo, but we might. Let's go ahead and try it. Let's just give it a shot because I think there's some solid value in the receiver range. We'll go ahead and plug in the Browns defense at 2,900. Let's see. Wide receiver, we'll scroll down here into this 5K range. It's definitely like JMO. I don't know that we can do this, but I like the running back wide receiver combo there. Leaves us 2,800 each. Probably going to have to. Yeah, we'll go with Devonta Smith first. Let's get down in here. Give me Worthy. 4,700. Okay, so now we have 3,300 each. Let's go Fannin. And we'll just drop down here. We'll take Darnold out, but we'll pretend it's still a Darnold lineup, but he goes through JSN. And then we'll go down here. We'll get crazy. I'm going to do it in public. I'm going to build a Shedeur Sanders lineup. Don't tell anybody. So that leaves us with 4,200. Let's see. That could get us a double stack there if we wanted it. I believe that Judy's right there. Yeah, 4,100. Yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. Browns double stack with their defense. The Browns roll. Shedeur throws for 4 touchdowns, or even just 2 touchdowns. They just go to Fannin and Judy. But if he gets us a 15 spot, we can work with that if all these other guys go boom week. But Gibbs, Barkley, JSN, Worthy, Devonta Smith, Harold Fannin, Jerry Judy, Browns defense. That is, my friends, $1 million, no doubt. All right, my friends, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Please let me know in the comments who your slate breaker is, and we will see you guys on Saturday, which is when I will do my player pool breakdown for you. Thanks so much for tuning in, and have a great day.